Yeah, so this listening session is about hearing from all of you. So it's wonderful that we can turn on the camera and capture the comments of our next speaker, Ian Colburn from the Rio Grande Farmers Coalition.
Sorry to keep you all waiting. Thank you for not rushing out, and thanks to the organizers for turning back on the camera. I have my notes in various forms, so I'm going to be switching between my phone and some paper here. But first of all, yeah, like Megan said, my name is Ian Colburn. I'm from New Mexico. I've been farming in the farm community here for about 5 years now. This is my third full season on a small diversified vegetable farm in the South Valley, practicing organic practices. This farm is certified organic, and I'm here today representing a group of food professionals, growers, in Albuquerque's agricultural industry called the Rio Grande Farmers Coalition. We're a local chapter of a larger national organization called the National Young Farmers Coalition, NYFC. That organization represents, mobilizes, and engages young farmers and ranchers to ensure their success. As I'm sure maybe some of you know, the average age of a farmer in the United States is now 60 or over, depending on the community. So their goal, NYFC's goal, is to help 25,000 young people to enter viable farming careers. And by doing that, they're tackling critical structural and economic barriers that prevent motivated young people from taking over their family farms or getting started in this industry. So, to answer the questions that NIFA has posed, well, first off, I'd like to say Presbyterian does a great job. They were speaking in the informal thing, and they've done a lot, and I guess that's relevant because if their work is supported by the NIFA grants, as a small farmer, they've been creating markets for lots of the produce and food products grown locally, and we always love to see that food make it to the people that need it the most. So thank you for supporting that program. All right, so addressing the questions. The first one was the challenge, the greatest challenge, and here in the arid Southwest, climate change is first in the forefront of our minds as farmers because of the uncertainty that it brings to our operations. And this is a challenge that not only are we starting to face, but we know that we'll face through our entire careers. NYFC did a survey in which 2/3 of their members said they had already experienced environmental or weather-related changes in their operations, and half of those people contributed it to climate change. In the 2016 survey that NYFC did, Western farmers in particular were affected by this, where the trend was 70% of respondents. Here in New Mexico, the average temperature is expected to raise by 5 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century if we don't change the way climate is going. This is in tandem with a projected overall decrease in the annual runoff and earlier snowmelt, which directly affects us here in New Mexico. Our river, where many farmers get their surface water from, comes from the headwaters in Colorado. So this past winter was the driest that we've seen since 2012, which is also an exceptionally dry year. Both of those years affecting farmers the following season with decreased yields, decreased harvests, and so the Colorado River Research Group, an independent team of scientists focused on the Colorado River Basin, labeled the climate transition that we're seeing in the Southwest as aridification, meaning a transformation to a drier environment and not just temporary droughts. So we don't need help getting through droughts, we need help adapting to the new normal. And I don't know if it's within NIFA's purview, but of course mitigating climate change should happen even before we, or at least in tandem as we adapt to its negative consequences. And all signs indicate that probable changes in the quantity of water available to farmers and ranchers will lead to reduced soil moisture and needed changes in timing of irrigation. So once again, the effects of climate change are going to force us to change our operations in the negative direction with decreased yields and making it harder to maintain good soil health. Beyond irrigation pressures, we've also faced new pest pressures because of warmer days and nights. This past season on my farm, we encountered the largest and earliest population of a pest called a bagrada bug. And it was the earliest that we've seen yet in the South Valley. There are few, if any, organic chemical controls for these pests, and they feed on a wide number of host plants, making them particularly damaging to a diversified operation as ours that rely on the food crops that these are pests for. According to our local extension agents, the influx of bagradas over the past 5 years has largely been due to warmer winter temperatures. All right, moving on to the technology and the question about a breakthrough. To help farmers and ranchers adapt to climbing traditions, research funded by NIFA should prioritize deepening farmers' understanding of soil health and carbon sequestration, including variances in carbon sequestration across various types of ag land, including rangeland and drought-prone regions. Healthy soil enhances the effective delivery of water to crop root zones, making for a more successful growing operation. Can also carry with it myriad other benefits, including increased productivity, reduced dependence on inputs, carbon sequestration, pest and disease control, and increased biodiversity. Farmers recognize that investing in the soil is investing in the long-term viability of our farm. So more research and investment is needed to better understand how we can most efficiently trap soil carbon, have what are good soil practices, and then the tools that go along with that. And then appropriate technology in particular. There are lots of technologies that exist, but farmers larger than ours dominate the industry. Small scale, under 10 acre, diversified operations are the exception, are a minority in agricultural operations. So we need tools scaled to our size with our soil types, particularly here in the Southwest. We face heavy clay soils with low organic matter. So certain tools and recommended practices are more difficult to apply or not as appropriate. For example, soil moisture monitors might be one example, or other tools or techniques that allow us to transfer from cash crops to cover crops so that we can both maintain a profitable farming operation while caring for our soil. All right, last question, education and extension. NIFA is well poised to provide the research and knowledge that farmers will need to adapt to these changing conditions. In the 2016 survey of Western farmers and ranchers, the National Young Farmers Coalition asked what kind of water conservation and drought-resilient strategies producers used. Of over a list of 20 practices ranging from mulching to deficit irrigation, the most frequently cited conservation technique was building soil health. The specific practices farmers use include cover cropping, crop rotation, mulching, all forms of building soil organic matter, which was cited as a primary conservation tool. So this brings it back to soil health, which we see as both the primary factor in a successful farming operation, as well as our maybe strongest tool in the uncertain weather and climate change that's coming to us. So essentially good soil health will give us the resiliency we need in the coming uncertainty. Furthermore, NIFA should offer support for regionally led research into growing traditional and more resilient food crops and cultivating tastes and preparation methods among consumers. In that I mean that we'd love to see extension offices offer classes on preparing and tasting of indigenous food crops that may be already appropriate for the arid climate and may do better as the years go forward and water becomes more scarce, but are not currently commercial and are not marketed. And we would have a challenge marketing to our current consumers. Furthermore, over the millennia, indigenous people have refined these techniques to enhance resiliency and sustainability of agroecological systems that they manage, proving that this should be a successful technique going forward. A Hopi farmer and member of NYFC, Michael Johnson, shared with us that the conservation and production methods of indigenous farmers have cultivated are not often studied or recognized in federal programs. So it would be great to see NIFA highlight that and break that trend. Great. All right, and that concludes my comments on those 3 questions for this NIFA listening session. Thank you for your time and listening to small farmers in the Rio Grande Valley.
Thank you. So that motivated one more speaker. I'm really excited to welcome Yvette Castellanos from the Water Resource Policy and Initiatives. She's going to provide some comments for colleagues.
My name's Yvette Castellanos, and I work for WRPI, Water Resources Policy and Initiatives. I was going to wait till after lunch, but since we closed early, so I just wanted to get the comments from my colleagues on record. I am projects coordinator at Cal State San Bernardino at WRPI, and on a personal comment, I just want to say that, thank you to NIFA for the listening session and for, for the grants that helps from, because I work with the projects and the students and all that kind of stuff. I'm really grateful that we work with the underrepresented population. So I get to see, the bios and see these students coming in and have these grants available where they can work on STEM research. And I have students that come in, and I'm grateful to see when the students come in and they're excited because they have interviews, they have jobs, and because of this mentoring experience, because they're, involved, they're able to get that confidence, and be able to not, to go out there and, go to the STEM careers and interviews and jobs that will, it will also help their communities, like we're talking about even the Native communities and all that kind of stuff. On a personal thing, I go on a lot of reservations in California, and so I see a lot of the water problems and, and stuff like that. And so to have these programs, grants available to this population is great because it gives them that confidence that, by being involved and touching the, the research, gives them that confidence to go and get those jobs and get those interviews. So I'm really grateful that I get to see that. And they come in and they say thank you and they got this and that, so I'm grateful. So now I'm going to read their, my colleagues, their answers on some of this stuff. So on the first question, when considering all of agriculture, what is the greatest challenge that should be addressed through NIFA's research, education, and extension programs? Most crops in the U.S. are produced with high inputs of water, fertilizers, and pesticides. Frequent and prolonged drought and competing demands on a limited water supply have created situations where less water is available for agriculture in California and much of the western U.S. Nitrogen fertilizers are used to make yield and quality, but have the potential to pollute ground and surface water and emit the powerful greenhouse gas nitrous oxide that further contributes to the global warming. Pesticides effectively reduce insect populations and maintain yield and crop quality, but also reduce biodiversity across broad taxa. Agriculture land comprises about 44% of the land area of the U.S. It is a managed ecosystem, and as such, the impacts of management practices on sustainability and environmental quality are potentially enormous and consequential. Reducing water, fertilizers, and pesticides in food production requires developing an integrated system with great technological capabilities to alter plant genomes, fully utilizing remote sensing for crop and water management, informing decisions with data-intensive analytics, and including ecological and social impacts as part of the evaluation of the greater agricultural production system. It requires revamping an agriculture education system to include disciplines outside of traditional agriculture and recognizing that much of the future workforce will have diverse backgrounds and be recruited from urban areas. Communities surrounding agriculture areas are particularly sensitive to agricultural issues. They will be key partners in this project, including outreach to communicate results and impacts of agriculture to their communities. For question 2, in your field, what is the most needed breakthrough in science technology that would advance your agriculture enterprise? A transdisciplinary approach to coordinate research, extension, and education activities focused on lowering the impact of production by improving water and nitrogen use efficiency and reducing abiotic and biotic crop losses towards achieving the national 25-year goal of 50% reduction in water and nitrogen use and a 20% reduction of crop loss. What is your top priority in food and agricultural research, extension, or education that NIFA should address? We seek to strengthen collaborations of the California State University, the University of UC, community and industry stakeholders. The CSU's Water Resources Policy and Initiatives and Agricultural Research Institute provide research and educational communities that actively engage underrepresented students and benefit underserved communities among 23 CSU campuses with a total of 429,000 undergraduate students. 21 CSU campuses have Hispanic serving institutions status, providing an essential platform for engaging underrepresented communities. One top priorities are to develop and implement a multidisciplinary, multi-institutional research, education, and outreach network focused on sustainability by targeting water, nitrogen, and insecticide use. We want to develop a body of research-based knowledge to inform, educate, recruit, and train students at all levels to be part of a new generation workforce that is technically capable of ecologically aware and to develop collaborative outreach programs with community industry stakeholders. And also one of my colleagues was mentioning a program that was called California Enviro-Thon. It's an outdoor natural resources education program, K through 12, to get students involved. So thank you for listening.
Okay, last chance. Well, thanks again, everyone, for taking the time out of your days, traveling far and wide to come here and give us your feedback. Just one last reminder, our online stakeholder input form will be open through November 30th, so please share this opportunity with your colleagues, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Thanks, everyone.